Okay, welcome everyone. Here I am again and doing another live session with three brave souls who stepped into the ring, and we're going to explore our profiles together. And we've been doing it. This is probably my third or fourth, I can't remember, of these sessions, and they've been very revealing, and they seem like people are enjoying them. You're all enjoying them, or at least the feedback I've had. And it's a nice way for me to introduce kind of some of the Gene Keys work, particularly with the profile. And if you're new to the Gene Keys, welcome. If you've been around the mill and you know the Gene Keys well, equally welcome. I hope you'll have some insights here today. What tends to happen is that when you look at someone's profile and kind of consider aspects of our lives, that universal themes rise up, and then they're applicable to many of us. So enjoying doing them, and thank you for being here. By way of introduction, I wanted to say a few words today about the art of contemplation. And the whole of the Gene Keys and this work with the Gene Keys is based on this art, the art of contemplation. And I've just released this year a little book, a short book. If you know my big book, you'll know that that's the book on the Gene Keys. It's like a serious tome. And this little book is under 100 pages, The Art of Contemplation. You can find it on Amazon. And it's my Zen book. And what it does is it condenses the technique at the core of the Gene Keys. And in itself, it's actually a standalone spiritual journey, regardless if you use it with the Gene Keys or not. And many of us are already kind of familiar with the art of contemplation as a kind of method. It's a very generous word, contemplation. It can mean many things to many people. It can include meditation. It can include yoga. It can include many spiritual practices. Because it's all about focusing our awareness inwards, and there are two main ways we can do that. We can either focus on a challenge in our life. So in Gene Keys, for instance, we have these words for the shadows. So we have, you look at our profile, we'll look at it in a minute. You take a shadow and then you begin to focus on that, your attention on that shadow, and you begin to kind of really contemplate it and think about it in your life. And what happens then is it starts to show up in your life. Maybe it shows up in someone you meet, or your partner, or your child, or something. You see that behavior pattern, or it's your response or reaction to a situation. And then you start learning from the wisdom that's live. And this is what the Gene Keys are all about. This is what this teaching is all about. So that's one way. And the other way is you focus on something really rarefied, really heightened, like some higher state, or often you could even focus on a higher being, a representation of that state, whether it's Christ or Buddha or something like that, or some great teacher. And then you put your attention on that over a period of time. And what that does in the Gene Keys, these are called the gifts and the siddhis. These are gifts that are inside us. And we all contain these potentials for those exalted states. So as you begin to wrap your awareness around that, it begins to also show up in your life. You begin to feel it. And that takes some commitment. It's a journey. And so that's really, when we talk about contemplation, we're talking about that art of focusing our awareness inwards into our own life, and really kind of taking a deep look at what's inside us. And so when you take Gene Keys, what you're given is these words, this language, and then as you contemplate each one, you begin mentally, you begin to kind of think about it. You read the text in the book, maybe you listen to some of the audios, and it begins to come alive, and you begin to have an insight about what that means and how it applies to you. And as you go a little deeper, it starts to move into your emotional life, and you begin to see it reflected. Perhaps you see that shadow reflected in the patterns around you. And then you begin to catch yourself even in that behavior, and the awareness starts to dig deeper, and then you find even the gift in the suffering of that. And eventually perhaps you begin to unlock the siddhi. The siddhi is the highest, that highest term, like that. So it might be compassion, or it might be ecstasy. And these are all like the final goals that are hidden inside us in a way. So that's how we use contemplation. And in the final phase, I should say, is when it comes physical. So it goes mental, emotional, and physical, and it comes deeper. So when it moves into the physical body, you might not think contemplation is a physical thing, but it really is deeply physical, because at a certain point, the contemplation leaves your mind and it starts to go into your being, and your whole being has an interior focus on that subject that you're dealing with. And that's where the breakthroughs come, deep breakthroughs from inside us. And actually, what we find with the gene keys is that they're codes inside our DNA. They're actually specific codes. It's a really incredible technology, gene keys. So our specific codes in our profile unlock specific pathways of awakening. And they're waiting inside us. So when that really opens up, you get a revelation, or an epiphany. You have an experience of light, of transcendence inside your body. And those come on, for some people suddenly, for others gradually. So it's a process working with the gene keys. It's a very deep knowledge in that sense. It's something you come into and you stay with it and for some time, and that's when you get the rewards. So that's my intro, a little bit about contemplation and how we can employ that. And so today we're going to contemplate. We're contemplating these profiles and our lives, and we'll see what comes out of that. Just a light contemplation, but just we'll see where it leads us. So I'd like to invite Theresa, lovely Theresa from Washington State. Say a few words and let us know why you're here and what you'd like. And unmute yourself, please. Otherwise, we won't hear anything.
That could be a good thing. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Well, let's see. How did I get here? It's been a long journey, but I have been kind of a seeker all my life and figuring out where do I fit in on this planet. And I think, let's see, the past 10 years of my life, I think, have been the most powerful, possibly my age, getting older, having completed raising children, being very immersed in a marriage that was difficult, in hindsight. It's just like my design was probably very challenged by that. And then, of course, I was introduced to your work, Richard, and come to find that it's those challenging relationships are where all the gold lies, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you've done the Golden Path program, and so you've been around for a little while with gene keys.
Yeah, about a year and a half, and I'm just kind of taking a little breath for a minute before I feel very called to go on the journey again. It's so many layers, so deep, so rich, and yeah, I'm really grateful to have found it.
Dig in another layer. So should we get your profile up, and then you and I, we thought we'd have a dialogue, and just a kind of rolling dialogue, and see where it leads us. So I'm going to just let you ask anything you like.
Okay.
And so there we are.
Okay. Well, I've watched a couple of your interviews that you've been doing live, and I know that you've begun on that activation sequence. And so this is difficult for me because it's so involved. I don't quite know where to begin, but okay. I will say that in my life journey, I've been very being in the more mystical world, the spirit realm, and having that kind of a spiritual walk on the planet has been a much more comfortable place for me to be. And my saving grace has been intuitively um, gravitating towards things like making a livelihood as a gardener, doing things, becoming very involved in yoga, and getting really into my body and onto the earth. And now that I have really walked through your path, I realize that that has been a very important part for me to be able to do. And I feel like I love and require a lot of solitude for my own time of contemplation. But my profile, according to the journey I've gone through and read of your work, shows that, I really am, there is a part of me that's really meant to be more out, in the public eye, so to speak, as a leader. And, you know, uh,
There are lots of
I'm looking
forms
more
of,
toward that.
yeah, there are lots of forms of leadership as well.
Yeah.
And so this comes from the 5th line, so if you look at life's work and evolution, the green ones, the 64.5 and the 63.5, it's the 0.5 that gives us, that 5th line, it's called, gives us that kind of idea that you're here to potentially have an impact on the world through, some form of practical assistance of people. And that's just on the surface in a way, though, because underneath, I don't know, Elijah, I don't know if you can slightly move the profile up because we can't quite see the purpose key, but or shrink it a little bit. But what's really there, I mean, what I'm thinking for you, Theresa, is because you're kind of at that stage of life where you're probably really looking, I'm guessing anyway, that you're kind of diving deeper into the spiritual kind of realms, and that's your focus and interest more than anything. Is that right?
It is very right.
So we could kind of go a little bit in depth into that. Like, as you said, the solitude is, you can see that in the radiance sphere and the purpose sphere, where you have this first line there. And so the first line, it is like digging in deep, so thanks, Elijah, that's great. So it's to dig in deep to the depth of things and understand, the core of life at a level of being. The in a way, when you look at the purpose and the radiance, those ones, and then you look at the life's work and the evolution, they're two lines, parallel lines, the two green lines, and they're like doing is the life's work, evolution, and being, the radiance, purpose. So our life really begins with being, and the doing emerges from the being. So the being is, in that sense, the most important, because the being is where the purpose is. It's where the light emerges from. That's why it's called radiance, and it's where we get our deep core stability in life. So if you have that kind of core stability, like that is where your being emanates from. That's the purpose. I love that in these profiles that the purpose of life is about being. It's not about doing, for everyone. So it's a state of being. So look at, you have the 26 down there, and that gene key is a very magical gene key, actually. And these take some digging into gene keys, and that one especially. It's pride, artfulness, invisibility. Many people misunderstand that word invisibility and think it's like, oh, I'm going to be invisible. Actually, it's more like the magician's use of invisibility. Like, it's the cloak of invisibility. Like, there are great teachers that teach without people realizing what they're doing. So in a way, this may be your way in the world, like to have your impact without people really knowing at the deepest level the magic that you're bringing out. And I use the word magic because it is, the 26 is a magical gene key. It has the capacity to create fields of magic through the purpose, through the kind of emanation of that sense of purpose. So, and when I say magic, I mean like, to create breakthroughs for people, but it's not something you do, it's something that your being can catalyze in others. So the deeper you go into your own spiritual journey, and particularly into your body, into the physicality of your body and the depth of your body, that's where you find the revelations. They're actually in the, you know, you can see one of the keynotes down there, bones.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually in the bones, because in our bones are crystalline, you know, and they're filled with light. Actually, when you get right down into the structure of our bone marrow, it's actually crystalline. So we are beings of light, and it's in the bone structure that our light emanates from. So and then your radiance is this, comes out as this synergy, you know. So synergy and communion, and, you know, the shadow's dominance, but synergy and communion are really about forming groups, forming together in groups in some way, feeling connected. And that doesn't mean like people groups, it just means the connection. Like you said, you're a gardener, so it's the communion of all beings. It's you know, when you are connected to all beings, when you feel connected to all beings, that's when that kind of radiance really has it, you know, does its magic in the world, makes its breakthroughs to impact others. So I don't know if that's like just starting off. Does that sound?
But it does. But it makes very much sense to me in how I've been watching my life unfold this past 10 years, and and it is a very magical path I wander upon, and I have the I have this really neat way of being able to see glimmers of it at work, just sort of in my own little seat that I'm sitting in. But so yeah, that's definitely it. And I did want to talk about, though, because I know you share this with me, are the loop of the 63, 64. And I just thought it was an interesting thing to talk about, because it is that you know, the shadow of the doubt and confusion, and how that can really get in the way of the whole higher, beautiful energy of imagination. And I stumbled upon a way. For me, the doubt always had come in throughout my life as self-doubt, the doubt of my capability to do whatever it is that I'm wanting to do, you know, just that little inner shadowy voice, the self-critic. And as I was working on your path, I really started contemplating the inquiry and the truth and what that really means. And then I think it's because of my wonderful imagination that I was able to play a game of, every time I would catch myself doubting, I would inquire, is that true? And then I would investigate the doubt, and through the inquiry, which would then explode my imagination and bring me some truth to the situation, you know. So that came from just going a little deeper into exploring this whole idea.
That's great. So that's like employing the art of contemplation, you know, where you find something come up like doubt, self-doubt, and then you begin to like look at that, and you have the courage to kind of go in and look at that and go, and you know, the imagination can like, well, say, well, shall I draw it? Shall I paint it? Shall I create a garden around it? What shall I, you know, what plant would it be? What, you know, the imagination just endless, like to give it color so that you can see it more clearly. And the imagination is also a very misunderstood gift, actually, because you think of imagination, many people, they just think it's just the mind thinking. It's like, we are, you know, imagination is everything. We are our imagination. We, you know, we're kind of, we live in a field of imagination, and there's a point where imagination turns into illumination. And that's where we suddenly realize that the imaginative forces of kind of life are actually real. We realize that the imagination is as real as any reality. And but it doesn't mean that you kind of believe everything you think. It just, there's a level where there's truth embedded in everything in the cosmos. And these are the themes of this 64, 63, to see that you know, the imagination is God at play, really, and we are God at play. So we are part of God's imagination, or the divine imagination. And you know, doubt is also part of that journey, and confusion is part of that journey. You know, as we have to, you know, because the mind confuses us, and the ego doubts itself, particularly in yours, you know, where you have this, when I mentioned magic and imagination, the connection, even in the word magic, imagine, you know, they're the same kind of root. You know, imagination and magic occur when we're surrendered. You know, so surrender is what creates magic. You know, it's not something we do, it's something that occurs from our being. You know, so the magical forces of the first line of your you know, of who you really are emanated out, you know, through your being, and they kind of they follow these lines out into the world to connect you to people. They draw people towards you. It's like the aroma of the perfume of your being draws certain people towards you. So it's not that you have to kind of work at it. It's just you have to keep going in. And as you keep going in, it will actually, you know, and you'll be, it's like me, you know, like keep going in, and then I keep sharing what I discover, because I can't help it, because that's part of the process. You just share what you discover, and you can share that in lots of different ways. It doesn't really matter how you share it, but the perfume of it reaches many people, you know, especially if you're fifth line. It reaches, like, can reach far and wide, and can also, you know, help other people with their self-doubt, you know, the journey that you've had. So yeah, the doubt comes in whenever we kind of think, is there something I'm supposed to be doing?
Right.
You know,
Right.
is there something I'm supposed to do here? Am I, you know, that the doubt is, am I supposed to do something to make something happen in my life, instead of just being? And as you live in that being, the doing just occurs on its own. I mean, this is quite mystical. It's quite Taoist, what I'm saying, but
I get it,
yeah,
and I have experienced it, and I'm at this little segue right now in my life where I so trust that. So my life is becoming very magical and very much. I mean, you know, we have to wake up every day and make a little bit of an itinerary, but for the most part, um, it's not really up to me what the outcome is. I'm really just open, and it makes it kind of delightful.
It's also it's the phase of life you're in, you know. So other people who are watching this, if you're in the kind of in the later phases of your life, this is a natural kind of flow for you, is to go deeper into the purpose, you know, into the core of who you are, into your being. And then allow, you know, because you're not, you can afford to do that. You have the time to do that, probably. You have the, you know, or if you don't, you probably might want to think about why aren't you giving yourself the time?
Yeah.
Because probably if you had children, they've grown up, and those kind of responsibilities begin to fall away. Life can become simpler again, and it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of go really deep into the nature of your profile, and particularly into these cities, and really contemplate them. Like, really go into, I would say for you, really go into like communion, and what is that, and you know, how do I embody communion when you're out in your garden, you know, and you know, smell it, listen to it, hear it, see it, you know, give it shape in your life, and really feel how you're connected to everything. And that's going to keep on bringing you deeper and deeper and deeper into the magic, into the magic of the universe that is kind of pouring through you. So yeah, I think it's a nice contemplation to have. Probably better move on, but if you any final question?
No, it just sounds good to me. I'm going to go to my garden and contemplate some more.
Yeah. Thanks, Theresa.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Charlie, do you want to go? Charlie is in Portland.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, nice to have you here. And where would you like to begin?
So
you're fairly new to Gene Keys.
I am, yes. I'm very new. I have not gone through any of the sequences or the golden path. So it's a lot to take in looking at it, but also already resonance just in the simple free profile read through and audio that you offered. My life feels very much in transition this year, kind of across all of my thresholds. So I was in a graduate psychology program for about the last 6 years, and right at the very end of it, arrived at the realization that had been there for a while that wasn't quite it for me. And over the last few years, I have really woken up spiritually and received apprenticeship from different healers, and have felt this call to bring the music that I'm creating, which doesn't really fit into a box, out into the world. And I noticed somewhere in the purpose location, I think, was this talk about awakening as presence, and this sense that I have in most relationships in my life, that simply by being who I am, which often does not fit the collective perspectives of who that should be, I agitate other people into or out of certain places, which can also be really challenging for me in romantic partnership, because that's not the most enjoyable experience for others to have, or for me to have, which also seems like it linked in with some of my evolution around needing to not take other people's feelings so personally. And so I think my question sphere, my interest in exploration is really kind of around like what is happening with that. I have the assumption that I'm transitioning from some of those shadow locations throughout my chart upwards, and
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, okay.
So a sort of series of questions in one, but I appreciate it. Well, let's take a look at your profile, and again, Elijah, if you can just make it, thanks. So where should we begin? I think it can be overwhelming when you first see things, and I understand that, and that's why in the teachings we break it down step by step. So for those of you who are beginning, what I recommend is, after you've had a tinker around and you've looked at your profile, maybe you've got the book and you've read a few things and you've started to explore some of the website and things, and it's a lot of free resources. When you feel ready, make the commitment to get part 1 of the Golden Path program, and once you've made that commitment, you're kind of in the front door, and what you'll see is there are steps. So you can look at the first step. The first step's free, and it sort of shows you online there's these things to do, like read this, make sure you've got your profile, listen to these audios, and then you're off. And each of the steps, so there's 10 steps in part 1, and so once you've got the program, and you'll be on step 2, and then it begins to unravel, because what comes with it also is the book. You get the book. There's a book with each of these layers, and you get the online book, which you can also buy the hardback, the hard copy if you want additionally. I don't just saying these things in case you don't know them already. But it's all there in the package. And so what it does is it takes you step by step. So it begins with the sphere at the top, the life's work, which is why I was doing that with Theresa. And what's really interesting is that the very first sequence, which only touches these 4 green spheres, you know, life's work, evolution, radiance, and purpose. And it touches them in a sequence, and the sequence is really important. So it goes from life's work to evolution, and then across the middle to radiance and purpose. And we don't do the other ones yet because they're part of the later phase when you go deeper into like the Venus sequence, which is the red ones, which is how we understand our relationship patterns and the wounding patterns. And then the blue one, the pearl, is about prosperity and how we flower in the world collectively, you know, through, you know, so that, but everything is linked. That's the point. Everything is linked. I mean, this is like, we're looking at it in 2 dimensions and it's not really 2-dimensional. So if you just imagine that every sphere is inside every other sphere. So there's actually only one sphere. And they're like Russian dolls. And once you get through the first one, the next one opens up, and the next one opens up, and the next, and there's the sequence. So what you do is you contemplate one until it sort of opens up in you and you go, okay, I'm beginning to understand that one. And then the next one starts to open up, and they often open up in pairs, particularly in the activation sequence, because they are paired. You know, they're called, you know, programming partners in this first sequence. So you 38 and 39 and 57 and 51, those 4 gene keys are like 2 pairs. So when I say pairs, they're like in the wheel around your thing, because it's done in a wheel. I don't want to go in technical into this, but when you do the program, you read about it and you can understand it. But it means they're exactly opposite each other. And if you're a student of the I Ching or anything like that, you'll see that the hexagrams, which are represented by them, are exactly opposite in their structure. So they're partners. And it's like we did doubt and confusion with Theresa. Those are partners, those shadow partners, and they create feedback loops. So doubt feeds confusion, and confusion feeds doubt. And in your case, it's struggle and provocation. You know, so when you are struggling inside yourself, you provoke others. You know, and when you're being provocative, then you yourself receive the struggle on the other end of that provocation. So those are like that's a feedback loop. But it's also the same at the other, you know, when you look at the next line up, the gift, that's the shadow, the gifts are perseverance and dynamism. And you can look at them together again. You go, well, okay, when I find something worth struggling with, you know, because it's all about like, this is your life's work. So you got to find something to do that is worth battling with, you know, and the 38 is a warrior. Kind of, it's one of the warrior codes, right? So a warrior needs a worthy adversary. It doesn't mean a person. It just means like the warrior thrives off kind of, you know, diversity, change, in a way, just getting stuck into something that is a bit of a challenge. So like, you know, maybe if you were a cyclist, then with the 38, then you would like the uphills best, you know, because the uphill is what makes you fit. It's what gives you that kind of like, I'm going to climb that mountain, you know, I'm going to get to the top, and that's what gives you the fitness. And the 38 is like that. So it's why the gift is perseverance. The struggle is only when you're fighting the wrong battles, right? So it's like if you're doing something that doesn't really, like your psychology, you know, if it didn't really feel like it resonated fully with your heart, with your purpose, with your being, then it creates a kind of friction field around you. And that's the same with everything. In a way, if you do something in a half-hearted way, if you're not fully in it, if you're not fully committed, then it creates that kind of that unhealthy struggle, which is different from like facing an obstacle. Like facing an obstacle can be great, whereas struggling, you know, is not so great because you're struggling. And so perseverance is what, you know, is what helps you. So perseverance is like, if you know it's right, if you find yourself persevering, you know, if you find yourself, you know, if you find that your willpower is like up for it, then you know it's the right thing, you know it's the right relationship, you know it's the right person, it's like, because you're willing to fight for it. You're willing to fight for this. I'm going to move through. I'm going to stay with this. That's when it's right. And at the top is honor, so we have dynamism as well. Dynamism is like the energy to persevere, and the health that is kind of, because a lot of this is this is you have a very dynamic profile. Like there's a lot in here that just needs, about your life, that needs to move, to be in physical movement, whether it's like, what's your instrument you play?
I sing and I play guitar.
You sing, okay. So there's a lot about like the kind of need to like just kind of be in motion, whether that's singing, whether that's moving, whether that's
I dance as well.
Dancing, okay. and that's going to be important your whole life, like to be in movement. And you can find the stillness in the movement. And so at the highest levels, you have honor and you have liberation, and that really tells you kind of what's underneath. So when we looked at provocation, you can see that that's like a lower frequency of liberation. So ultimately, you're here to kind of not only find liberation, but also liberate others, liberate blocked energy, liberate things that are stuck. Now, you might use your music for that. You might use all kinds of different ways in which you do that. But in a way, in the beginning, in the early stage of your life, it's all about just learning, like, how to get past the struggle. And the struggle is necessary because it shows you what not to get involved with, and as you learn that, you begin to then refine what you do in life, and you find things that really fulfill you. And as you find those things that really fulfill you, it's no longer hard work. Like you ask someone who's really fit whether it's hard work running up that hill. It isn't. It's a joy. It's even ecstatic. So for some it might look like hard work, but for you it's effortless, and it has effort, but it's it's joyous. So there's a lot about finding joy through in your life, and that's so pivotal for you. It's like, do things that, it's good advice for everyone. Like, do things that bring you joy, that bring others joy. But ultimately what you're going to do is find that the obstacles and the things that you surmount, which you will kind of find that you're in this field of honor, in this field where you feel liberated. It's no longer about what's happening. It's that you've found this place inside you where nothing can get you down. Nothing can kind of, no amount of like suffering can actually take you away from your core. And that's the field of honor. That's like, it means that you share that energy with others, with the world, and will inspire others through your life story. So in a way, looking at this, it's like we can say that you're going to surmount some obstacles in your life. They're going to come to you. The same for all of us, but they're going to come to you, but they're going to kind of fire up your warrior spirit. And the way you deal with them is going to kind of, you can break through into that higher field of honor where it's no longer, you've transcended the actual suffering. And so you're then in this different category of human beings, like, so the stories of honor that we, there's so many stories of honor where someone sticks to their principles against all odds, and then and no one expects them to kind of win, and they do. Or even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because they've kind of given it everything. And that's like the energy of your life there on the surface. Okay. So underneath, you have radiance and purpose. And, since you asked about relationships, we could kind of dive in there a little bit. Like, this is a second line, and second lines are really good in, they really thrive in relationships. That's why the key word is marriage. And it doesn't mean marriage in the kind of form of, conventional. Yeah. It means to marry your energy to another thing or person, or place. It can be at lots of levels. It means to really trust in your intuition, You know, that in the 57 it's about intuition, to like really trust your intuition about people, about places, about everything. And if you don't trust your intuition, you'll struggle, you know? And you'll create provocation, or you'll be provoked. You'll be in that field again. So what you can see is your profile is, you know, the breakthrough, because the breakthrough is between the radiance and the evolution. The breakthrough is when you, it's not just one breakthrough, it's breakthroughs over and over and over and over again in our life. So the breakthrough for you is trusting your intuition deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper throughout your life, until you get to such a deep level that you come to clarity, pure clarity, where everything is just clear. Your intuition immediately just tells you, don't go in there, don't step on that, you know, don't, you know, I'm not going to work with that person, I'm not going to marry my energy to that person or that place, it just doesn't feel right. I know enough now to trust this feeling. And so this is explaining, this is describing your life journey. And the deeper you go into that intuition, the more you know, you'll liberate that higher aspect of yourself, you know, because you won't get caught in those struggle energies. And then at the base is awakening, you know, a purpose. So you could even just be really simple with these gene keys are really simple. Just go, look, the purpose of your life is awakening. You know? I mean, anyone can do that with their profile. Just the purpose of my life is that word, right? And then enter into that word in depth. So your journey as you come deeper into gene keys will be really to unpick these words and these how does that process work from shadow to gift to siddhi. And, you know, so you can see agitation, initiative, awakening. And of course, agitation goes with unease. There's, you know, they're kind of connected. So the unease you can trust because it's telling you something's not quite right here. And so is the agitation. So it's not that you create agitation, it's just if you are, you're not listening to your intuition. You know? And the 51 is a beautiful gene key. It's the gene key of thunder, you know? But it's gentle thunder. You know, it doesn't have to be, it has this reputation, maybe comes from the human design world, and if people are interested, have done human design, that they think it's quite shocking, right? And it's shocking in a gentle way. It's about, you know, it's about awakening through the heart. And, you know, initiative means when something feels right, when it's in the flow. You can see that the line there is about posture and fluids. All the lines of this purpose are in the body, and so they connect to the body system. So this is about posture and fluidity, the fluids of the body. It's the watery one. So it's about flow. So, you know, when something is in the right flow for you, and it's like this, we're in the being here, we're not in the doing. We're in like, how do you know when something's in the right flow? Because you flow into it. It's effortless. It's like, wow, this just came. It was just like so easy. Easy is right. No, that's the kind of basis. And you can see that the kind of, I don't know, the play with words in your profile. Like you've got struggle here and effortless down here. You know? So the game is all about that for you. It's like struggle, effortlessness, ease, unease, you know, marriage, provocation, you know, all these words playing games with each other, dancing. You know, as you go deeper, you'll begin to see this pattern in your life. I'm just playing with the words, but only you can know what shape those words form in your actual everyday life through the relationship. So, you know, you're going to get better and better at flowing through things as you go on in life. That's the process of awakening, and awakening is something that occurs in layers. You know, so heart kind of reveals itself in layers. So even though there may be wounding at times, then that wounding just, you know, the heart closes for a bit and then it opens again, and another layer is revealed. And in a way, this is like the journey of initiative. It's like you have to kind of step into things, even though they may kind of they may look risky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's like, the 57 that they are, that's kind of go, yeah, I don't know why I'm saying yes to this, but I'm saying yes to this, and it looks risky from the mind, like I don't know if I should do this, but actually it's stepping into it, taking the initiative to go towards it, is actually what kind of brings you the awakening process. So in that sense, it almost is effortless, your life, even though it may, there may be some courage in just trusting that more and more as you go. So in a way, this is your activation sequence. That purpose is really to kind of every single event and relationship that comes to your life is for the purpose of your awakening. Everything. And I'll finish by like looking at attraction field, because that's sort of part of the flow, unless you want to drop anything in. I haven't really left a breath for you. I do apologize.
Oh, no. Right, deep dive. I am resonating so much. Thunder specifically has been an energy that I'm very aware of, that I'm very connected to. So that just sort of is like,
yeah.
So please continue.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'll kind of, I'd like to end on this attraction field, which is the first kind of, well, it's the second sphere of the Venus sequence, but it's like when you go into the Venus sequence, which you will if you carry on in the process of your contemplation, and you've moved through the activation, you've kind of really feel like those have opened up for you, and you begin to understand the grounding in that process of awakening. And in a way, that's the most important thing, like to feel the grounding of being like really connected to our core purpose in life. That pathway is called core stability, that connects radiance and purpose. That's how we get our core stability in life. That's how we weather all the storms that life throws at us, by being anchored in that purpose. So for you, it's always about awakening. Everything is to awaken you, and you have to kind of trust in that at a cellular level. You have to realize that everything you move into, even when you make the mistakes that aren't mistakes, it's for your awakening. But it becomes easier and easier and easier as time slides by, as experiences come and go. And what it's doing through the attractor field is it's drawing in other people, relationships, that are kind of bringing you the potential for stress or stillness. But that's not, this, like, the stress is just, we only really feel stress when our heart closes, and because we're kind of threatened with overwhelm. Might be emotional overwhelm, might be, lots of different types of overwhelm, might be responsibilities or whatever. So we're only really respond in that way when we're not kind of grounded in our purpose. So that's why the activation sequence comes first, because when you're grounded in your purpose, then you can enter into any relationship and you have a place that's yours, that you don't get entangled with someone else's energy. So you don't get stressed out by someone else's energy. And every relationship will keep doing this to you. It will keep saying, come back into your stillness, come back, don't respond to their stress, don't respond, that's someone else's, that's, it's like, it's just the chemistry field. It's not even you. Just keep coming back. And you can see that the gift is restraint. So it's like, you're going to learn by like being restrained and being not restrained. So you're going to learn through like, your heart opening and closing and opening and closing. That's why the keys are like frigidity, romance. It's like you're going to go cold and then you're going to go warm and lovely, and your partners will always say, oh my God, she's in the cold, she's in the hot. It's like when she's cold, I can't get anything out of her. When she's warm, oh my God, the romance is like, oh. But it's not even that pattern is not even like up to you. It's part of our wounding journey. Is like we get to see where we were wounded as children, where you were wounded as a little girl, and there's defense mechanisms that we have, and And the process is all about like just giving ourselves the space. It's all for your awakening. So it's all about learning to come more and more into the, restraint is not a negative thing. Restraint is a beautiful gift. To know when not to say something. I mean, in a relationship, that's like so powerful.
Yeah.
Instead of saying "you bastard" or whatever, you just go, and you've just created like a completely different reality. If you'd said "you bastard," you would have set a whole train of things in motion.
Yeah.
That would have then like led to your own kind of pain being worsened. So the learning of restraint is more about how you take care of yourself, and in relationship. So, and then eventually coming to that place of stillness, of just anchoring stillness, so that you can be in any situation and be unfazed. So I think that's, hopefully that's useful for you. And
oh yes,
what you'll find is that as you kind of unpeel layer after layer after layer, it just tells the same story over and over again, but in a different way. So yeah.
Thank you. That is unbelievably helpful and resonant, and thank you so much for your time.
A pleasure, Charlie. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Right, Chris, you ready?
So
Hi. Chris is also in Portland, so say
I
hi.
am.
And
Yeah, I'm also a newbie. I came to you and this work through a dear friend of mine that I just recently lost to colon cancer, and she was really deep into your work, and she and I never really had the chance to delve into this work, but I'm really intrigued, and I have done some work in astrology and a teeny bit in oh, I'm forgetting the name of the other.
Human design.
Yes, human design. And so yeah, I'm super intrigued, and I'm in the newbie path as well. And so I'll be kind of going deeper with all of it too. But I guess I would say for me, where I'm at right now in my life, I'm a mom. I have play a lot of roles and do many things. I've been married to my partner for 15 years. We have 3 kids, and ranging from like 5 to 13. And I've been deep in the mothering work, and really undoing a lot of like finding my own path, and finding a lot of healing in deep ancestral work. And I'm a seeker, so I've been, deep in a spiritual path, and I have so many things I'm interested in that are always kind of in conflict with my deep desire to mother with a presence that, I want to have with my children. And yet there's still a pool. There's a pool for me to be constantly learning. I mean, I'm forever in a class, I feel like. Forever in I need to learn that. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to gather here. I'm going to gather there. And then where I'm at this moment, I feel like, well, here I am with all these things I've gathered. And I'm sort of a bit of the imposter syndrome, right? It's like, how do I bring my gifts into the world? How do I bring them all into the world? And what does that look like while I'm still honoring the other pieces of me that are different than that, my different roles? And that's sort of where I'm at in this moment of like what to do now.
That's great. Well, let's have a look. So we'll do the same story. maybe we'll start at the base, yeah, with purpose. So here you've got like the second gene key, right? So there's like, you know, the I Ching's quite magical, and you don't need to know the I Ching to understand gene keys, but for some reason, Elijah, the frame is locked a bit. I don't know if you can see that. So the profile's gone a bit. That's it. It's quite magical. So the first gene key and the second gene key. So the first hexagram, the second hexagram are like the prime yang and the prime yin. So at the base, the core, the purpose of your life is this prime yin, which is really the mother, you know, and it's the great mother. And that doesn't mean that everyone that has that is a mother, but it means at some level they are. And even if you are a male, at some level you carry that kind of that deep feminine energy. They called it in the original I Ching, they called it the field. Really nice little word for it, the field. It's like the field for manifestation, the field for miracles, the field for possibility. And ultimately it's you know, the shadow there is called dislocation. It's about, you know, losing touch with home, because in a way that the mother is home, you know, and so the journey for you is like to find, well, what is home? What is it? You know, what is home for me? Where is home? What does home feel like in my body? You know, because home is not like a place, it's not a geographical place really. I mean, it probably is, but those are temporary. That's not like eternal home. I'm talking about eternal home, which is this core purpose of your being, and that's got to be something archetypal, something that can never be eradicated, you know, from the universe. And so ultimately it's unity. It's like looking for this unity, you know, it's which provides you this spiritual journey in life. And so it's like, okay, a sense at the core of your being that something's, I haven't found it yet, the dislocation, you know, I haven't quite found it, but I'm heading towards it. And then the gift in the middle is orientation. And orientation is when you're kind of, you feel like you're in the right, you know, you're in a creative process with that dance of unity and disunity, but you're in the middle, you're creating, you'll be doing something creative. Like mothering, for example, is the ultimate creative gift, because there's so many skills that are needed, and that, as you said, you have to learn to hone, you know, and just to balance the other gifts of your life with the responsibilities that you have. That's all part. And you have the second line, same as Charlie, you know, which is the fluids and the posture. It's the flow. So it gives a real clue as to what kind of mother, what kind of woman you are. Like, it's similar to Charlie in that sense, that there can be a real effortlessness for you if you find that flow and that rhythm in life and that orientation. And that means that you have to learn to kind of deal with the times when you feel disoriented, you know, where you feel like those are the shadow times. That's going to come up. It's going to be the background of consciousness actually for you, because, you know, we all, as I said before, we kind of have these wounds in us. So how you are when you're not feeling grounded and balanced and sort of in the flow is also part of the flow. Do you know what I mean? That's a really important thing. Like when you feel stuck, that stuckness is a part of the flow. And you have to remind yourself of that. Like, oh, okay. You know, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel, you know, any of these things, irritated, you know, tired, whatever, that's also part of the flow of the journey. So it's like, that's the deeper level of the field created by the second gene key. The purpose is to allow everything to be part of this wider flow. And then you can never not be in the flow. You just can't. And that's when, you know, your life begins to really feel like, you feel sure of yourself, you feel like more permanently anchored, like doesn't matter then so much what you do, because otherwise, like, you're worrying about what you're meant to do. I'm meant to do this, I want to fulfill this, I want to succeed in this, I want to attain that. And actually you may do all of those things, but they won't happen because your mind kind of makes a list of them. They'll happen as part of the flow and the rhythm of your life. And then moving up to the radiance, this is really nice, because you said how your friend who you just lost, she also had this first gene key and this second gene key. So you obviously had like some amazing deep connection with her, because she had the 1 and the 2 as well, and you have the 1 and the 2 in your activation. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So nice thing to contemplate. And so this is about beauty, and so beauty and unity go together. And freshness is about finding like something new every day in everything that is in front of you. Entropy is when you're in the kind of dislocation again, you're doubting, but you haven't noticed it, so you're in this kind of forgetting field. You can see that one of your other keynotes in the 33 in the evolution is forgetting. So when you forget, which is common and normal and human, you're creating that field of entropy, and you can drop into you can drop into depression, you can drop into like kind of states, moody states, or just like where the energy, or kind of your energy just sort of saps. It feels like it's, do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Feel like you don't have the energy for anything new, and you feel like this is just like drudgery, or this is like poor. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure every mother and father knows those states.
Yes.
But they're part of the flow as well. And they're actually, ultimately, this is the beauty of the beauty, is that beauty is found in every step, but it's a kind of vision. It's a trick in a way that the gods have played on us, that even in ugliness there's beauty. And I said to someone earlier today, there's this great teacher, Anandamayi Ma from India, Indian saint, beautiful woman from the last century, incredible divine presence. And she said to one of her devotees, she said, don't ever wish for your suffering to go away, because your suffering is the river that will lead you to the ocean of enlightenment. And so in a way, that is the truth of your purpose, to come, your spiritual path is in the everyday. It is right in front of you, with what you've got in front of you to deal with right now. It's not kind of in the clouds, it's like in every waking moment. I know that we've read this in books like The Power of Now and all that, but it really is like the beauty really is even in the moments of forgetting. And that's the kind of, that's why she said that, like the suffering is the river, and we have to keep returning to that. And you have this, second line marriage, which is connecting you to people, to things, to situations, to storylines in your life that you have to follow through right to the end. Marriage is like that. Marriage is like, it has beginnings, middles, and ends, as you probably found out. And those ends then either lead to new beginnings within the same relationship, or they lead to another relationship, or they, but all marriage, whether it's kind of actual physical marriage, or it's like just a marriage or a relationship, like they all have these cycles inside, and those cycles are actually at every stage, they have their learning and they have their beauty, and they also have their moments of entropy, where things just feel too much. And it's at those times we have to kind of mother ourselves. You have to remember the mother. You have to remember this is part of your spiritual journey. You have to remember that everything is grist for the mill. And out of those two gene keys, in a way, your whole life is built. And they're fire and water. So they create this wonderful kind of steam of your life, and can create breakthroughs for you. On the surface, you have 19 and 33. And this is more about what you do, what you can do with your life. And these are 6 lines as well, the little 6 after the gene key. And 6 lines are like, they have good news and bad news. The bad news is that you have to be very, very patient everywhere you see a 6 line, because it's a process that in your life will flower later, after your 50s, probably. How old are you, if I may ask?
Almost 42.
Okay, so you're at a kind of turning point as well. 42 is a turning point in life. It's like astrologers, you probably know that. Uranus opposition. It's a kind of theme change. So that's interesting, you know, in itself, like another whole conversation, but probably 2 or 3 years of change for you. But then after like you're 50, 51, 52, that's a period in which some of the dreams that you've been holding inside your heart are ready to start manifesting. Probably it coincides with the time your children are older. So like, I'm not saying that like you put your life on hold. I'm just saying that's a part of the 6 line theme that, you know, there's a lot that could happen in your life in your 50s and your 60s. So that can help you to be more in the now and to relax deeper into the flow and the rhythm of your life, you know. And then the breakthroughs that come to you spiritually, that's what's really important. Not what happens on the outside, not what you achieve, but the breakthroughs that come to you. And they'll come through you relaxing deeper and deeper and realizing, I can take my time. I can just do this. There is, you know, I need to attend to what's in front of me. So go on.
I was going to say, I think as, you know, when I hear you say that, like the doing and the being and just relaxing into, and it made me think about growing up with trauma and this this part of me that always has felt like if I'm not doing something to get out or get to or fix that, I'm going to miss it. Like it's not going to happen. And there is still, you know, as much as that resonates with like relaxing into it, I still can feel myself when I think I just need to breathe and relax into it and let it happen, that I might miss it, that it might pass me by, or that I might not notice. I can still feel that like, I need to do something about this.
Yeah. And it's the kind of irony really that, you know, that enlightenment's not ahead of us, it's behind us. And we need to slow down so it can catch us up, you know? And in a way, like if in your evolution point, you know, where you have this 33rd gene key, 33 line 6, very magical. It's like, there's something in here for you. Like you carry, I'm going to say something mystical here. You carry a wisdom from distant past, you know, that's beyond your capacity to understand intellectually. It's carried somewhere inside you. And everything you're learning now in your life is so that when it comes to your wisdom years, and I mean your wisdom years, whatever was hidden inside you that you've known was there because you've always felt it, and you've always like, it's actually the thing that's annoyed you in a way. It's like, I know I've got something more to do. I know I've got to do, there's something I'm here to do. And it's just sitting there like waiting for its moment. And probably at times you've had the revelations, you've had flashes, because it flashes, you know, revelation comes as flashes, but also one day it may come as a flood, where the gates open up for you, and you know that forgetting of the shadow there is just removed permanently. And mindfulness is the kind of root. Mindfulness and heartfulness. It's like stepping carefully each step. Like I've been saying, I've been telling you the story of mindfulness as been going on, but you know, really there is something mystical hiding inside you. And it's from a past, you know, I'm not going to kind of say past life, but it's from your ancestral lineage. You know, it's like some other kind of secrets, wisdom that lies inside you, that's waiting for its time and waiting to be revealed at a specific time. And we're also coming to a time in the evolution of the planet where wise ones are appearing. And so I would say, like, in the years ahead, there's something building for you. And the 19th gene key at the top is all about having the sensitivity to those other realms. Like, ultimately, that's going to be some kind of a sacrifice needed. But that's like another story. No one really knows what that is. The ultimate sacrifice is the ego, to sacrifice our sense of self, in order that that other being, that other presence behind can come forward. But there's a learning for you. You know, the gene key is codependence and sensitivity and sacrifice. And this is often the one that's connected to nature, connected to the kind of the natural world, or other realms, other dimensions. And so, but there's also like this, the codependence there is about kind of strengthening your own inner self. You know, like I started the journey, like strengthening in the deep mother, the divine mother. You know, the mother the role doesn't matter. The roles that you're playing don't matter. You are the field behind the roles. And that's when the sensitivity can really come online. When you kind of, when you realize, you know, you're connected so intimately to so many beings, this world and the next, and they can begin to kind of move through you. And that's connected also to the revelation, I think, you know, and perhaps a deep sense of surrendering something, or a sacrifice of some form. You don't know what that will be, as I said. But if you have that gene key, it's a kind of, it won't be a kind of, doesn't have to be an unpleasant sacrifice. It's just, ultimately we all have to make that sacrifice of the lower self to the higher self. So I think for you, there's something, you know, it's funny that I did it this way, because it's almost like the beginning is at the end and the end's at the beginning. And for you, I think there is something magical that's waiting to come online. Will probably begin to unlock. Now you're at your Uranus phase in life, and steadily unlock until it's fully unlocked at a certain point, probably in your 50s. Oh, I'm sounding like an astrologer.
Yeah.
Anyway, some bit of soothsaying came out of that one. But I hope that kind of gives you some sense of hope anyway. Like,
No, I think there's definitely some gold in there for me, and the remembering that I don't have to do anything. It just really, there is that feeling so much that there's right now that I have so much input and I'm having so much output that it's just too much in general, and that I just need to relax into all of it more. So I hear that, and I take that in.
Give yourself a break. You know, look at your life as a whole. You know, imagine yourself looking back from, you know, just before you die and going, oh, what would I say to Chris at my age now? You know, I'd say, chill out, girl. You know, there's like really good stuff coming. If you just hang on in there, it's all going to unravel.
Yes, just have more fun.
Yeah. And I also kind of say sometimes people, like, really go into the depth of your heart. And, you know, when you go, you know, if you decide to take this journey deeper and you go into the Venus sequence and you really move into the kind of core of these teachings, then you find that in your heart, in the SQ right in the middle there, is like waiting something really magical. And every single one of us has a deep longing of our soul to attain things, to do things, to achieve things, and the heart knows what that longing is, and actually that longing is exactly the thing that will come to us if we relax deep enough and surrender to our Dharma. Yeah. So yeah, I think there are other stories waiting for you to unlock in your profile that could be quite magical. Same goes for you, Theresa, and you, Charlie. Like, there's a lot of secrets in here, and you know, I can only just like knock on a few doors today, but
Yes.
I hope it inspires you to continue.
It does. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your insight.
My pleasure. And thank you everyone else who's watching. I'll say a few things just to kind of give some sense of completion. If you're interested in taking this journey, you've probably heard me talking about the Gene Keys deep dive, or if you're new, you may not have done. This is something I'm doing in, thanks Elijah, something I'm doing in January to start a new decade. And it's a powerful decade coming. It's like, someone pointed out to me, this is like 7 years after the 2012 cycle, which is really true. And the next 7-year cycle that we're moving into is a really, you know, there's incredible potential for awakening on this planet. And I mean inner awakening, because what we're seeing on the outside is something different. And we need not to get too fixated on what's going on the outside and bring our gaze inside, because that's where the transformation is occurring. And so the deep dive is a journey into this. It's exactly what I've been doing here, into the purpose, into the sphere of our purpose, into like these 4 areas. And like I'm going to return into that at another level that I've never done before, because I'm one of those people that I can never teach something the same if I do it again. I have to like renew it and refresh it and bring new things and insights, and so it's fresh for me and fresh for everyone. So we're beginning January 20th, I think. We are going to do 4 months of this deep dive, you know, 1 month for each of those spheres. And we're doing it as a global community. There's like around 300 already booked. So I'm thinking there's like going to be quite a lot of us, which is magic, because you get to also have that synchronicity of, you're going to meet some people from other places in the world while you take this journey. It's like a virtual retreat, but it doesn't require like a huge amount. It's an inner focus that in that sense, it's a retreat that you kind of, you plant it into your life at the beginning of this decade, and it's going to, you know, your life on the surface continues as it is, you know, with your relationships and your job and whatever it is you're doing. But underneath is this completely different interior focus that you do according to your own timing, your own rhythm, a lot of resources, and you're going to go through, we're going to go together into these themes in the same rhythm each month. So things are going to open up, and then understandings are going to open up, and then we're going to have exchanges with each other through community calls, and again, in our own timing, each of us, because we're all in different time zones, but we're all also on the same journey. And there's a real power in doing that as a collective group, because you kind of harness this collective mind, this collective will, this collective heart, and you can really feel it. It's like as you journey. So it's like, if you've never experienced anything like that, it's really powerful. And actually, this is the power of having an online group, because you realize that space and time are kind of an illusion. So it's a wonderful way of entering into the Gene Keys. And if you're returning, it's an amazing way of deepening the insights that you already have. And I can guarantee you'll get new ones. It's not even about insights, it's about coming into that core purpose that's in the body. This is an embodiment process. So after 4 months, if you don't feel more embodied, I was going to say, I'll give you your money back. I better not say that, otherwise Anton, who I work with, will go, don't say that. But you know, that's what it's really about. Like, it's about coming deeper into the body, into embodiment of our core purpose, so that whatever comes at us in the next decade, and who knows what the world is going to throw at us, we have this deep anchor, this stability that's about being, you know, and then the doing can change on the surface, but we are like are anchored in this higher purpose. which is ultimately a form of love, that we are in service of the whole. And when we have that anchor, others will feel it in us, our families, our community, our friends, and it'll give us a whole new, it just gives you a sense of deep stability in unchanging times, in changing times, sorry. Unchanging stability in changing times. And it's the beginning of a Gene Keys journey. So if you're new, please sign up, come join us in the deep dive. And you can sign up now and already start unlocking the thing. So you can start your journey right away as well. It's just we'll be doing it in kind of communion in January. So really nice timing with this new decade. And the last time probably I'm going to teach it live. After this, it will be done by other luminaries who are following me, and I will move on to other areas of Gene Key synthesis. So yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you so much, Chris, Theresa, Charlie, for your openness, your honesty, vulnerability, strength, and willingness to be here. Thank you everyone for listening, and blessings, our blessings go out to you.